Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm in the studio. We are live, so get involved in the chat and the comments. We'll be talking about all things Manchester United, of course, and Ruben Amorim, and transfers, and all the rest of it. So let me know what you think about the stories. Make sure as well, if you're not doing already, you are hitting like, share, and subscribing to the channel. We want to get to 800,000 subscribers. What we're on there, you can see there. We're not that far off. We can get there, so get subscribing. Quite a few stories doing the rounds. Good to see the usual suspects in the chat already. Notch, good to see you. Bonnie, morning to you. Chris Quigley, Maurice Marshall, Witterbird in there as well. Kevin Aitchison, Colin Coupleditch. Morning, gang. I tuned into the World Football phone-in on 5 Live last night. And who should I hear? Only producer James of Scotty and Motty fame. James Young on there. Pavel Kaduk in there as well. Morning, Jay. Happy Tuesday. Glenn F. All the other suspects in there as well. Good to see you all. Thank you for getting involved in the chat and the comments. And please hit that like button, people. Right, let's quickly go. I'm going to mention this and then we're going to move on. I think we've spoken about this already. I still see it's doing the rounds on social media, so I'll quickly mention it and then we can all move on with our lives. The Ed Sheeran thing, he's apologised for it. He obviously joined in that interview with Ruben Amorim on Sunday after the Ipswich game. Infuriated a lot of people. They weren't too happy about it. All sorts of insults flying around for the gingerhead popster. He's apologised. Let's all move on. I like the fact he called himself a bit of a bellend as well. I obviously feel a bit of a bellend. So it seems like quite a heartfelt apology, to be fair, when you're calling yourself that. Yeah, storm in a teacup. I thought it was a bit disrespectful, but I also don't think it was handled very well by Sky. And I know this is probably a conversation for another day. I just think those pitch side interviews are terrible. I do. I just don't think they add anything. I think it's all a bit of a gimmick and it's stupid and it needs to stop. And half the time, at Old Trafford, they do it quite near where I stand. Sometimes everyone's shouting, so they have to wait for ages or they have to move or whatever. Sometimes it gets interrupted. And then you have all this thing, don't you, where people coming over, you sort of cheering. We've had it in the past with certain players coming over, people kicking balls over there. It's just, I don't think it works. I don't think it's necessary. I don't like it. You may disagree. Get involved in the chat in the comments, but I think we can all move on from Ed Sheeran Gates. Tyler Wood says, morning, Jay. I'll have no ginger slander in here. I'm a large guy. John Thomas says, Ed Sheeran, would we have cared if we'd won? No, we wouldn't have. That's a good point. I don't think anyone would have been bothered. I think everyone was a bit annoyed because it was a deflating result. And Amorim looked a bit like, what is this drivel that I'm dealing with? Glenn F says it's American, S-H-I-T-E. Yeah, it does feel very Americanized. Should we talk about some transfer news? Do you know what? We're not even that far from transfer season, are we? Because I think, we got about 6 weeks until the January transfer window. I don't expect Manchester United to do much business in the January transfer window. We might do a bit of loan business. We do love a loan, don't we, in January, Manchester United. We did it with Erik ten Hag a couple of times. We did it with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer quite a lot. We are sort of, open to loaning in players. I don't expect us to do many purchases. I don't expect us to buy purchases like we're in a bloody shop. I don't expect us to buy anyone. I might be wrong. It doesn't feel like Manchester United have any funds. Now, maybe you could sell someone in January and that gives you the money to buy someone. I doubt it, though. It feels like in terms of business, we ain't going to do much. We'll have to wait and see, though. Maybe if Ruben Amorim goes to the board and says, look, I need a striker. That seems to be the obvious one. I need someone who can get me the goals. These players ain't up to it. Maybe then something could happen. But I am a little bit sceptical. Victor Boniface has been linked with Manchester United. You see Florian Plettenberg there from Sky Germany. Friend of the channel. He's been on back in his Sport 1 days. And then obviously when he was at Sky Germany, Sky Sports Germany, we speak to him. He knows his stuff when it comes to what's going on in Germany. You can see the tweet there. Victor Boniface is one of many strikers on United's shortlist. If at all, an expensive sale would only become a serious topic next summer. So don't expect him to come in January. He's looking like someone potentially, keep using that word potentially, could come in next summer. 23-year-old top striker, currently injured. There you go, great. He's under contract with Leverkusen until 2028. The Red Devils are actively scouting the striker market. If no new striker arrives in the winter, they plan to secure one by the summer at the latest. Now, we have been linked with Victor Gyökeres, obviously, from Sporting, a player that the manager knows very well, player that he brought from the English League, took to Portugal, and he's absolutely smashed it. Boniface is another striker we're being linked with. I expect us to be linked with a lot more. The obvious plan, or the obvious sort of issue, I should say, that United needs to address is who's going to be the striker. Marcus Rashford played there against Ipswich, scored, didn't have a great game, if I'm being brutally honest. Rasmus Højlund had a decent first season. I still feel like this is the season where you can assess Rasmus Højlund. I think he's a good player, but he needs to show it this season. I think at the end of this season, if he's not improved on last season, he might struggle to get starts for Manchester United. He might struggle to be the guy that we want him to be. So I think he needs to have a good season this season. I'm not saying he can't, but we'll wait and see. I feel there's an element of the jury being out with Rasmus Højlund, personally. You may disagree. Get involved in the chat in the comments. You may think he's the guy. You may think that the manager, Ruben Amorim, can do for Rasmus Højlund what he did for Victor Boniface. Work with him, get him, take him to the next level. Fine. Joshua Zirkzee. I want to be kind. He's new. I don't want to lay into the kid because everyone else is. But I'm a bit concerned as to what his role is going to be in this team. I don't think he's going to lead the line. I don't think he's that guy. Can he be one of the 10s? We have 2 10s. Can he be one of them? Possibly. Possibly that could be his role, but that still doesn't solve your striker issue. And also, even if you did play Joshua Zirkzee as a striker, or you play him as 10, he ain't going to get you loads of goals. He's never done that, really. I think it was 12 he got last season at Bologna. I mean, he was their top scorer, but he's not a prolific goal scorer, and I don't think he looks like he's going to be. People can say, well, Victor Boniface wasn't a prolific goal scorer until he got into his sort of, was it like 22, 23 or whatever years old, and then he started scoring and then took it to the next level. But I just don't see it with Joshua Zirkzee. Someone like Chido Obi-Martin for the future definitely can be a goal scorer. Right now, though, he's still a kid. He's still 16 years old. You're not going to throw him into the Premier League and expect him to start and get you loads of goals. So I think we'll have to look in the transfer market, personally, unless, like I said, Rasmus Højlund can step up. Let me know what you think. Ahmed S says, Jay, come to the car park. Did you see that? I spoke about that yesterday. Roy Keane kicking off with someone at the Ipswich game. JB says, morning. Matty H says, what's your thoughts on Amorim saying he's done too much press and wants to focus on training? Priorities. Yeah, listen, if you're the Manchester United manager, you have to do the media. You have to, right? There's no ways around it. Doing interviews, speaking to media is a big part of your role as Manchester United manager. And every United manager has to know that, and I'm sure Ruben Amorim knows that. And I think if you actually look at his interviews, he's handled himself very well. He comes across very charismatic, pretty chilled, answers difficult questions. He has been given difficult questions already, and I've been impressed with what I've seen so far. But there were reports that he feels like he's doing a bit too much. And I get it, especially when you're sort of looking at it post-match. You've got to do Sky, I think you do Premier League productions, you do MUFC. He's probably looking at you and you do, the actual press conference. He's probably thinking, this is a bit much, this. He's done a lot of media as well when he arrived. I'm sure he expected to do a lot of media. You're the new manager of one of the biggest clubs in the world. You're going to have to do interviews. And he's actually done more than he had to. You don't have to sit down with Gary Neville for an hour. That's not, part of your remit, but he did that. I'm sure Sky obviously have got to deal with Manchester United where it's like, let's have a sit-down interview with the manager. But you don't always have to do those kind of things. He did them, he does them very well, but there are reports that he feels like he's doing a little bit too much. I think you just got to get balance, and the club have to protect him a little bit as well. You can say, yes, you have certain obligations when it comes to the media, but we won't overdo it. And also, maybe they can have a word with Sky and say, look, if you are going to interview the manager, why don't you interview him? Hey, why don't you interview him and speak to him instead of stopping halfway through to go and speak to Ed Sheeran? Sorry, I said I was going to move on from that and I haven't. Who else have we got here? Diomande. So, you can see here, where's this from? Caught offside. Exclusive. Ruben Amorim contacts Star to put Man United in pole position for €80 million transfer. €80 million always makes me think of Anthony. Manchester United manager Ruben Amorim has some contact with his former Sporting Lisbon star Ousmane Diomande over a potential transfer to Old Trafford. The talented young centre-back has shone at Sporting, becoming a key player for the club during Amorim's time in charge, and caught offside understands the Portuguese tactician is keen to work with him again. We are going to get linked with a lot of Sporting players. We've already been linked with Gyökeres. We've already been linked with, is it Quenda? The fullback, or the wing-back, I should say. We're now getting linked with Diomande. I think you're going to see a lot of that between now and January and now until the summer, where United are linked with a lot of Sporting players. And it makes sense. The stories make sense for several reasons. One, Sporting sell players. They do. That's no disrespect to them. They're a big club, but they're not as big as other clubs that will come looking for their players. We know they sell players because we bought a load of them. And we've had a good success rate when we've bought players from Sporting. Nani, Bruno, some kid called Cristiano. I can't remember what happened to him. He was a bit of a flop, to be fair. But we've done quite well. And obviously the manager's coming from there as well. So you can get players from Sporting. He'll know those players. He'll know what they can do and how they can fit into his system. So I expect us to be linked with a lot of players from Sporting. We'll see whether any of them, which of them happen. But I expect a lot more stories like this at the minute. Get involved in the chat and the comments. Let me know what you think. John Carberry says 80 million centre back in one of them faces. Yeah, it's a lot of money in it. We're still getting linked with Jared Branthwaite. We're still getting linked with centre backs, aren't we? We've still got Lenny Yoro to kick a ball in a competitive match for Manchester United. We'll have to see what happens there. I think at the weekend you saw how when you play three centre backs, you need options, don't you? We had De Ligt, we had Johnny Evans, and we played Mazraoui, I think, didn't we, at centre back. That's a bit makeshift. Johnny Evans, will he be in next season? I never count him out. He's a phenomenal player. I'm sceptical as whether he's got yet another season in him, and he might have, and I won't be complaining if he does, because I think he's done very well when he's come into Manchester United. I know he didn't have his best game at the weekend, but there was mitigating circumstances there in the sense of he's up against a very good player in a new system. I know he's got a lot of experience, but I don't think he's ever played in a back three, or certainly not recently for Manchester United. So it was, it's too quick to dismiss Johnny Evans' potential for a 37-year-old. Sounds ridiculous, but Johnny Evans can still do a job for Manchester United is the point I'm stumbling towards. I'm not going to say he won't be here next season for definite, but I'm doubtful he will. So you're probably looking at bringing someone else in there. Yes, you've got Godwill Kokonke, who's not that far away. He travelled with the squad, didn't get into the squad, but he travelled with him. He's still a kid. I think he's 16 years old. I don't think he's 17 until February. So he's some way away from being in and around the first team. Then you've got, obviously, Yoro I've mentioned, you've got Martinez, you've got De Ligt, still got Maguire, still got Lindelof. Lindelof, I think, he's going to go in the summer. I think he's out of contract. Forgive me if I'm getting that one wrong. I don't expect him to get a new deal. Harry Maguire may well want to go if he's not guaranteed first-team football. He'll still have ambitions of playing for England, of course. He was an England regular up until the recent tournament. So there's a good chance we see some comings and goings at the centre-back department at Manchester United. Maybe Diomande is one of those that comes in. Maybe it's Jared Branthwaite. Maybe it's someone else I've not mentioned. Let me know in the comments. And if there's anyone you think would fit into the system you would like to see arrive at Manchester United. Luke Shaw played as a left centre-back in that training game. I don't think you can rely on Luke Shaw. You may disagree. Let me know what you think. Dan United 94 says Kokonke will be a good player for us, God willing. Very good. Akash K says, Jay, do you feel there is a huge shortage of strikers today, especially with what Rio discussed on his recent podcast show with Robbie Keane? I feel like there is a little bit. Back in the day, I'm talking about, it's probably about 20 years ago, there was loads of strikers who you knew could get you goals. And if you looked in the Premier League, almost every top team had a striker who was capable of getting you 20 goals a season. And United used to look at a lot of these strikers and go, okay then, who can we bring in? Let's not forget, we got players as well from other Premier League clubs. Berbatov obviously came in from Spurs. Sheringham came in from Spurs. Van Persie came in from Arsenal. Rooney came in from Everton. Tevez came in. I know it was third-party ownership from West Ham. So we look at around and you go, okay, who's capable of getting you goals? Often in the Premier League, you don't even have to go abroad. You go, look, Cantona from Leeds. You could do that. Now that you're looking at it, and I think there's a little bit of a shortage. There's still a lot of good players out there, but when you look at the top sides, or when you look at, not even the top sides, Premier League clubs, how many of them have got out-and-out goal scorers who you think Manchester United could go and get? They're in short supply. And I think the difference now is more and more clubs are looking abroad from when the sort of period I was talking about, sort of late 90s, early 90s. Very much you could go into the Premier League. Now people look abroad and you get some absolute quality, obviously, don't you, from different leagues, from French leagues, Portuguese league, the Dutch league, of course, even the German league. We've seen a lot of signings coming in from those countries that I mentioned who've done very well in the Premier League. But it does feel like we're in this sort of stage at the minute where there isn't a lot of out-and-out goal scorers out there, and this is what Manchester United need, and it is difficult. There's a reason goal scorers cost so much, because it is probably the hardest job on the pitch is to score goals, and they are in short supply, so we'll have to wait and see. And the trouble we've got at Manchester United is we've wasted a lot of money. We've wasted a lot of money over the last since Fergie retired. What have we spent? Almost £2 billion? What have we got to show for it? No real proper title challenges. I know we sort of had a little bit of one under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and less of one under Jose Mourinho, but we haven't had a proper title challenge. We certainly haven't done anything in the Champions League. For the amount of money we spend, that isn't good enough. And now Ineos have come in and they're saying, right, okay, you can still spend money, but with PSR as well, we've got to cut our cloth accordingly. We can't go out there and just spend 250 million quid on a striker, or 200 million, whatever, 150 million. We've got to maybe find the next big thing. Now, we thought, or we think that Rasmus Højlund might be that. I think, was it 72 million quid we spent on him? So it's a lot of money to spend on a youngster. He's had a decent first season. As I said earlier, maybe he can kick on next season. Joshua Zirkzee, the jury's out with him, and plus he's not an out-and-out striker. Akash K says, Jay talking facts. Thank you. It's about time someone noticed that. John Carberry says, personally, I think if we get a striker, he still won't score. The problem is delivery. I get your point there. There is an issue in there with providing the chances and the service that you need as a striker. We've seen Rasmus Højlund sort of drop further and further down the pitch to come and get the ball because he's not getting the service that he wants. We've seen it over the last few years of strikers in particular, and we seem to have these players, these inverted wingers, whose first thought isn't to try and create, it's to try and score. You look at Alejandro Garnacho, you look at Anthony when he's played, you look at Marcus Rashford, they're very much looking to get the shot off. That is what their sort of first thought is. It's not, I'm going to try and get a cross in. That is something the manager's got to work on. Now, with the system under Ruben Amorim, it is slightly different. You don't have inverted wingers, you have 2 10s. And if he's saying to them, look, your job is to feed the striker, your job is to get the ball into the striker, maybe that changing system can help someone like Rasmus Højlund. Maybe that can have the effect we need it to have, because Manchester United, for whatever reason, we're not scoring enough goals. The goal scoring at Manchester United has been absolutely abject this season. It really has. And obviously that's, a lot of it's down to what happened under Erik ten Hag. It's not Ruben Amorim's fault, he's only just come in. But when I look at Manchester United, we're sat in 12th. We've scored 13 goals this season. I mean, that is pathetic. 12 games, 13 goals. Just to put that into a bit of context here, I mean, that's the same amount of goals as Ipswich. Clucking bell. And, Wolves have scored 7 goals more than us. West Ham have scored more than us. Bournemouth have scored more than us. Brentford have scored 9 more goals than us. Jesus wept. I mean, you never mind the likes of City and Liverpool and Chelsea and Arsenal and Brighton and Spurs, who've got double the amount of goals we have. Your Fulhams and your Villas have all got more goals than us. It's actually odd that Newcastle have got the same amount of goals and conceded the same amount of goals as us. It's very similar. But it's not good enough. United need to fix up. I mean, defensively, conceding 13 is not amazing, but it's okay. Chelsea have conceded 14, Arsenal 12, Brighton 16, City 17. I know they're in a bit of a rut, but they're still the reigning champions, still second in the league. So in terms of the goals we've conceded, it's nothing to write home about, but it's not that bad. But to only score 13 goals in 12 games, when the amount of money we've spent, the talent we've got as well, that isn't good enough. And that is the big, big problem that Ruben Amorim's got to fix. Now, I've said it a million times, but I'll repeat myself. I rate Ruben Amorim. I'm glad we've got him. I think he's the right man for the job. The issue he might have this season, until he buys someone, is getting goals. He might not have the personnel to get the goals that we need. That is the only, well, not the only, but the biggest concern I have. I think, in terms of the system, I think a changing system is a positive. I think it can work with 3 centre-backs. I think we've got the players to do that. I even think wing-back-wise, that can work. I think we've seen it. We've got players. You look at someone like Amad Diallo, played very well at wing-back, even though I'd prefer him in the 10. Nusayr Mazraoui is someone you think is absolutely tailor-made to be a wing-back. If Luke Shaw, big if, can get himself fit, he can be a wing-back. Delot can fill that role. There's options there. It's the striker, it's the goals that worries me, because we ain't been scoring enough goals. And it's not just in the Premier League as well. There's been times in Europe when we've been wasteful in front of goal, and it could end up costing us. So let me know what you think. Get involved in the chat in the comments. Let me know your suggestions. There you go. Here's one. Ant L says, Jay, I simply don't think we have the funds. It may be a Jonathan David free type signing. It might be, Stephanie Griffith makes a good point here. 6 of those 13 goals in 2 games versus Southampton and Leicester. That tells its own story, doesn't it? There's a good chance Southampton and Leicester go down this season. And almost half our Premier League goals so far have been against them. Now, there's nothing wrong with scoring loads of goals against Southampton and Leicester. It's what you want to do. The issue is when you've only got 7 goals against the rest of the teams that you've played. Not good enough. I mean, massively annoying that you have, the Spurs game, that's the Liverpool game at Old Trafford. Make them work for those wins. Give them something to do. Give them something to think about. We should be scoring against these teams and making a game of it, and we just didn't. CTB says, we don't need a January signing. Our squad doesn't have any obvious weaknesses. We should wait until the summer. I'm sorry. I kind of disagree. I don't know if we'll get a January signing, but I do think there are obvious weaknesses, and I think the obvious weaknesses is lack of goals. Justin Lau says, Jay, what's Rashford's prospects of first team football since he doesn't seem to be the striker position and lacks the skills to play in any other positions? I think he could be in a bit of trouble, Marcus Rashford. I think he's really got to do something between now and the summer if he's going to stake a claim to be in this side. Maybe he can play as one of the 10s. I think that would be his best chance of getting in this team or staying in this team. I know he played as a striker at the weekend. I don't think long-term, or even short to long-term, that's where he's going to play for Ruben Amorim. We'll have to wait and see. But if he wants to play in this team regularly, he's got to fix up Marcus Rashford. Everyone accuses me of being Mr. Marcus Rashford and not constantly defending him. I point out his flaws, and he's got a lot of flaws this season, and going back last season as well, he has to improve. I've said that a million times, I'm not going to lie. G-Dan says, what I would do for a Henrik Larsson type loan this January, oh my days, yes, I completely agree. Henrik Larsson, absolute superstar when he came in. Dan United 94 says, Jay, why are Ineos ignoring the obvious answer to our goal scoring troubles? Welbeck, hashtag Welbeck. Tell you what, apparently, Erik ten Hag wanted him, didn't he? He wanted to bring in Danny Welbeck last season, I think it was. Yeah, I would have loved to have seen that. Hit the like button, please, people. We've got a story here about, what's this, Star Trek or something? Go on. Oh, Rangers appoint former Man United CEO Patrick Stewart. Sorry, I got confused. There you go. Patrick Stewart is announced as Rangers' new chief executive. Yeah, nice one. I'll be honest with you. That's one of those rare stories where I haven't really got an opinion. You know what I was going to say then? I wish him well. I don't really care. Do well, don't do well. I'm not bothered. There was a story here. Where's this from? Football Fancast. And I just thought we'd do this little bit of a chat about this. Man United ace, who was sold by LVG, is now better than all of their forwards. They've done a piece here. I think I can't read these. Is it Jack Stevenson? Salverson. Jack Salverson Holmes has written this. And he's talking about the lack of goals there and the fact that we've not got strikers or attackers that are scoring. And he's looked at some of the players that Louis van Gaal sold. And he said, look, that's been part of the issue. United have let players go. Now, some of them, like one of them there, Angel Di Maria. There was absolutely zero chance Angel Di Maria stayed at Old Trafford. He didn't want to be here. His missus hated it. He didn't perform. There was no way on God's earth we should have kept Angel Di Maria. He was, he was acting like he was some sort of hostage. Now, I know he's gone on to do well, and we always thought he would. I was kind of relieved we got a decent amount of money for Angel Di Maria. Not that we reinvested it very well, but we at least got some of our money back. I think we got, was it 44 million for a player we spent 59 million on? So we lost 15 million, which isn't exactly great, but you can live with it. He went to Paris Saint-Germain. He did well. He did all right. Obviously, he's a World Cup winner and he's had success. But I don't think I've yet to meet a United fan. I'll be honest with you. And you may be him or her, so by all means get involved in the chat. But I've yet to meet any Reds that say we should have kept hold of Angel Di Maria. I think selling him was a good idea. The other one, though, I think on the list is Danny Welbeck. I was gutted when Danny Welbeck left. I'd have liked to have seen him stay. I think Danny Welbeck, though, has gone on to improve. I think that at Arsenal, he was a bit patchy. There was a hat-trick against Galatasaray. There was some important goals. I remember him getting a last-minute winner against Leicester. But I don't think he set the world alight at the Emirates. And I don't think too many Arsenal fans were fuming when he was sold or when he left. I think now, you can see, now he's in a good bit of form. He at Brighton, he's having a thing at the starts of the season. Sorry, is one of the best starts he's ever had to a season. Could we do with someone like a Danny Welbeck? I love Danny Welbeck. Yeah, 100%. But I think the point this cycle is making is that Louis van Gaal sort of sold all these players, and it was a bit of a mistake. And maybe there is an element of that. But I think the bigger issue at Manchester United has been poor purchases, poor buys. It's not necessarily the players we've sold. It's the players we haven't brought in, although some of the players we've brought in, and we've always gone for the short-term option. We've always gone for the Edinson Cavani, the Cristiano Ronaldo, the Zlatan Ibrahimovic. It's been the 35, 36, 34-year-old striker that's come in. You can get rid of that. That's come in and been the answer to our problems. And some of them have worked. Zlatan had a very good first season. Edinson Cavani had a good first season. Cristiano Ronaldo had a good first season. But then it's the following season. What's the longer term option? Then you've had loan moves like you bring in Volt Weghorst or you bring in Odion Ighalo. That doesn't solve anything long term. Manchester United need a striker who can come in and play the next sort of at least 5 or 6 seasons and be our guy. Hopefully, that is going to be Rasmus Højlund. Get involved in the chat and the comments. Is there a player as well? Well, no. Who's the player that when he left, post Sir Alex Ferguson, that you thought we shouldn't have got rid of? Because I think a lot of the players we've sold, I actually agree with selling him, but you may disagree. Let me know. Wayne Davies says, I love Wells, but he's never been prolific. Imagine the pressure he'd have if he came back. Compost Smurf says, Welbeck has been decent his whole career. I think that's decent is a fair assessment. Curler's 87 says, agree, Jay. Penny pinching for years, and it shows in the squad. G Dan says, given our track record, I'm surprised we haven't gone for Vardy. Ant L says, Jay, my biggest worry is we look scared to shoot. I want a striker that will turn and shoot on first touch time and time again. That's a great point, that. We saw it with Højlund, didn't it? When he came on against Ipswich. There was a time when he sort of did, he came on, and there was a moment where he did the hard work, he bought himself a bit of space, and then he did a pass that was one of the worst passes I've ever seen, where he could have got his shot off. And then you saw Xerxes, who actually did get a shot off, which went into row Z. So, yeah, I think there is something there. I think that's confidence for me. Players taking that extra touch, taking a little bit too long, not going for the shot when the shot is on, going for the pass. If you're in that area, right, and the shot is on and you're a striker and you're in a good bit of form or you're feeling confident, you're going to have a shot, aren't you? Gyökeres, when he's in the box and he's got a bit of space, he doesn't pass. He shoots, and rightly so. But I feel like with United, we've got players that are just lacking that bit of confidence, and it's showing. Doyle says, Jay, if it would happen, would you be happy if we went for Salah? Heard a few rumours about it already. Right. I'd be over the moon if Mo Salah left Liverpool and came to Manchester United. But I will tell you now, and I'm the least ITK person you will ever meet, that 100% is not going to happen. There's no way on God's green earth we are getting Mo Salah. So I don't know where you heard it from, but I'm putting my neck out on the line and saying, not happening. Not happening. So forget it. Yeah, sorry to rain on anyone's parade, but I don't even think it's that much of a revelation that we ain't buying Mo Salah, is it? I think we all know that. Dan United 94 says, God, I miss Cavani so much. I miss him from that first season. Kind of fell out of love with it all, didn't he, for the second season? I think he might have spat his dummy out a bit when Ronaldo came in and took the number 7 shirt. Going to leave it there. Thanks everyone who got involved in the chat and the comments. Going to be back later on. You're going to have Stephen Housen on the channel. Joe Smith's going to be back as well. He's going to be having a little look at, I think he's looking at Andre Onana, so make sure you check that out. I've been Jay Motty. This has been The Paper Talk. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.